Welcome to week 82 of Cougs on Cougs. I am Jess. This is Mary.
Hi.
We are 1-3, and we have a bye week, so that's a relief.
Thank goodness.
Let's start with quote of the week.
Yes, this one, we went to the big guns from Dieter F. Uchtdorf.
Who was at the game?
He was. Says, never give up on anyone, and that includes not giving up on yourself. So you'll find us over here still trying to be as positive as we can, and we don't want to see anyone giving up on anyone. No. A lot of season left to play.
For sure.
But we are disappointed. Don't get us wrong. We are also very, very disappointed. It was not super fun to watch that beatdown on Saturday.
Right. It's way different than last year. You were 1-3 at this point as well.
It's true.
But those games were a lot different.
It felt way
different. They were so much closer. So
we're going to do coaching from the couch, and it is going to be a little different this week because of our frustration. So bear with us. We're trying to stay positive, but we are abandoning what went right this week because we're sick of the moral victories. Like, could we find things that went right? Like, probably. Did anything really go well enough that it counted at the end of the day?
I mean, we weren't shut out again.
But that's a moral victory.
I know. It's all moral victories at this point.
So we just decided to just not this week. So what went right is on probation until further notice. So we'll just do what went wrong real quick. It's kind of depressing. Okay, Coach Tyler, let's start with you. What went wrong?
The one stat I picked out came from Greg Bell, which I didn't realize until I was listening to the post-game stuff today.
Uh-oh.
We ended up with 68 total rushing yards for the game. And after halftime, we had 2 rushing yards. That was it. 2 rushing yards in the second half.
So 66 out of 68 came in the first half.
Yeah, I think we ended up having something like 72 in the first half, and then you had some negative yards that took you down to that. But yeah, only 2 rushing yards in the second half.
Oh, so you're saying we have to play a complete game, maybe?
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like the first quarter we had the majority of those rushing yards, and the first quarter was actually
evenly matched.
Pretty
we were
well.
tied for a minute.
We were actually moving the ball and everything. Only had a field goal, but we were actually moving. Maybe give us a little bit of false hope, but it was probably because Wisconsin wasn't sure what we were going to do on offense.
I guess
once they figured it out, they shut it all down. But
they sure did.
I'm a little worried about our offensive line that we can't open up holes big enough to have more than 2 rushing yards after halftime.
And Ula was good, but at the same time, he needs help. I hate that my what went wrong is on defense again. I think I'm just so done with the offense that I can't even begin to address it.
Can I say, though, for this week, that's entirely fair.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know. And that's kind of another thing that's bugging me is everyone is talking about how great the defense is. And I don't mean to take anything away from them, but getting 40 points scored on you is not good. And listen, they didn't do enough. They didn't do enough to give us a chance to win this week because 40 points does not give you a chance to win. And they didn't force any turnovers, which I don't like.
I was going to mention that too. Yeah. If you look at last year, that was a huge part of our defense and why we were so good is because you're forcing turnovers.
Exactly. And that's how you beat teams that are better than you is that you give yourself a chance by, getting the ball when you shouldn't have the ball. And
when your offense is struggling, that can really help. Like, look at the Utah game.
Totally.
Fred forces a fumble, we get a turnover, and we
get a touchdown.
Scoring. Yeah.
So that isn't even my what went wrong, but that is a what went wrong. Mine was that we are allowing 80% completions versus FBS opponents, and we allowed 90% completion to Wisconsin. So it's kind of the same thing. In the first quarter, I was fine. Defense was doing enough if they could have kept that up the whole game. But for them to allow, the quarterback completed all but one of his passes. I want to say
and Wisconsin's it was a dropped pass that had nothing to do with us.
Oh, exactly. His quarterback rating was just through the roof. But our secondary just vanished. Yeah. And it's too much pressure to put on the secondary anyway. I mean, we had 1 sack. We weren't getting any pressure on their quarterback, and it was just disheartening.
It did seem like the defense was playing very conservatively, I guess. There wasn't a lot of intensity, pressure.
Well, did it seem like that, or are they really just that much better than us? Which is the discouraging thing.
I feel like that's what we don't know. I feel like we've played so many good teams in a row that it is really difficult to know how good or how bad this team is.
That's true. And one of my friends was saying that to me, that we haven't had a fair measuring stick. Portland State, I don't really count because it was the first game, and then you've had 3 top 25 opponents. And we knew that they were going to be top 25 opponents, but Wisconsin is something else. We've faced maybe a couple of Heisman candidates. So, anyway.
Yeah, it's been rough.
That's so, yeah. So, sorry that we don't have any rays of sunshine with our What Went Right. Cosmo did a good job with his backhand sprints.
I will say, right? I do have some hope for Bo Hodge. He did some good things. He did some not good things, but he did some things that make me think that he can win some games for us.
Until Tanner can come back to us.
Yes, which we don't know when that's going to be yet. So,
all right. It was time to dust off the old rule book and bring back a segment we have not done yet this season, Cougs in the Classroom. So, we had a request from our dear friend, Wendy Brown. And she tweeted us during the game at one point and said, "Hey, Cougs on Cougs, maybe you could do an educational segment on what is and isn't pass interference. We fans could use it." I think she was right. I think there were some questionable calls not only in the Wisconsin game, but also in the Utah game, where fans were kind of scratching their heads. There were the 2 back-to-back in the end zone where Utah had one and BYU had one against when we played Utah. Mm-hmm. And then there was the one on Saturday. We figured we would clue the fans in on clear cut what is and what isn't pass interference. So Jess, our lawyer extraordinaire, read through the rule book for us.
Yeah, I mean, with any rule, it's going to be hard to call it correctly every single time in a game. The game goes so fast and everything, I don't have so much time, but they do their best, of course.
Yeah, okay.
So we went right into the rule book. Rule 7, this is section 3, and it's article 8, illegal contact and pass interference. So this is what it says. For background, in the rules, it talks about Team A and Team B. Team A would be our offense, Team B would be our defense.
Good to know. Okay. Team A is offense, you said?
So, Team A offense.
Okay.
Okay, so this is how the rule actually reads. During a down in which a legal forward pass crosses the neutral zone, illegal contact by Team A and Team B players is prohibited from the time the ball is snapped until it is touched by any player or an official. Okay, so that's the background for this rule. So we're talking about plays where there's a forward pass, basically.
Yes.
Going through the neutral zone, so down the field. So we're going to start with defensive pass interference because that's typically what you have. Most often that's the call, except for the Utah game for some reason.
That was weird.
So defensive pass interference is contact beyond the neutral zone by a Team B player, so this is a defensive player, whose intent is to impede an eligible opponent, let me say that again, by a Team B player whose intent to impede an eligible opponent is obvious, and it could prevent the opponent from the opportunity of receiving a catchable forward pass.
It's interesting verbiage.
Yeah, so it's not super clear about like what it is, but it says when in question, a legal forward pass is catchable, so you always assume that it's catchable.
I don't know if I like that assumption, but okay.
Yeah, so basically, it has to be obvious that you are trying to prevent them from catching the ball before the ball gets there.
Yeah.
So it's like a small window. If you're thinking about a pass going through the air, by the time it gets to the player, once it's there, it's not pass interference. But if it's still traveling there and you make contact and try to prevent them from catching it, then it is pass interference. Okay. It does go on and say a couple of times when it is not pass interference.
Okay. I think this is what we wanted to know.
Okay. So, and the one I'm going to focus on, there's a few different examples, but the one that you'll see most often is probably number 2. So this section 2 says, when 2 or more eligible players are making a simultaneous and bona fide attempt to reach, catch, or bat the pass. So both eligible players have to have equal right to the ball.
Okay, so it's not pass interference when your defensive back is trying to catch the ball. They can do that.
If you're both turning around and going for the ball, not pass interference.
Okay.
If you have your defensive player that comes and tries or does touch the offensive player before the ball gets there, then it can be pass interference.
Okay.
Okay, a little bit
confusing. So turn around.
But yeah, so it's interesting that actually isn't in the rule book. It's not that the rule is that you have to be looking at the ball. That's just how they teach it because the actual rule just is about contact.
Right.
Essentially. Okay. So that's defensive pass interference. Let's go to offensive pass interference because this was called twice in the Utah game, once against Utah and once against us.
Weird.
So, offensive pass interference by a Team A player, that's again, team on offense, beyond the neutral zone during a legal forward pass in which a forward pass crosses the neutral zone is contact that interferes with the Team B eligible player. So, this time you're talking about if the offensive player makes contact with the defensive player, then it's offensive pass interference.
So, you can't push off.
Essentially, you can't make contact at all. So, now the rule book is interesting because the way it explains what pass interference is and isn't is by explaining what it's not. It doesn't say this is pass interference. What it says
only says what it's not.
It's not pass interference if. So it's not offense pass interference. Same thing if both players are trying to go for the ball. They're making a play on that. It's also not if two or more eligible players are in the area where they might receive or intercept the pass and an offensive player makes contact, but the ball's not catchable. So if it's not catchable at all, it can be offensive pass interference.
But we assume that it is catchable always. So unless it's like really, really, really not catchable.
Way high out of bounds or something, it's not. So that's why more often than not, they're going to assume that it is catchable because that's what the rule says.
Okay.
Always assume it's catchable.
So
essentially, if you think back to that play that we had at Utah where we had the offensive pass interference call, it was because you had Alevahifo, who wasn't the one that caught the pass, but he ended up making contact with a defender while the ball was in the air.
And it was catchable.
So that's why you had...
And then they did the same thing to us, exactly.
Yeah, essentially.
On the other end.
So you had Hifo essentially, sort of like in basketball, set a pick. Like a screen on the guy and made contact with him. So he couldn't... So the defender couldn't make a play to...
It's a pick without a roll.
Stop the catch, yeah.
The main rule is that you have to be making a play on the ball. So if you're watching the game and you see that your defensive back is making a play on the ball, it shouldn't be pass interference. It should not be pass interference. Theoretically. Essentially. Right?
Yeah. The main rule really is contact.
So
don't make contact until the ball's there.
We'll link to the rule book so you can read it for yourself. Hopefully that answers more questions than it raises. But there's our Cougs in the classroom for pass interference.
Let's do something a little more fun.
Yes, please.
Let's do Talk of the Town. And once again, we're going to start with Jimmer.
Jimmer should bring a smile to everyone's face always.
He really should. So Jimmer made it to Shanghai.
Yay!
Instagrammed an Instagram story of his welcome at the airport. Which
they were so stoked.
I was really impressed. I think you forget how big Jimmer is in China. Like, he's a legit celebrity there.
He's like bigger in China than he is at BYU, which is like crazy.
That is also saying something. Yeah. Which, of course, they're in the middle of Jimmer Mania over there. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, cool picture of him at the airport taking selfies with fans, getting flowers, people wearing his jersey. I love all of it.
Yeah, and we will say a little extra info we got from his wife. Someone gave their baby the cutest little panda suit I've ever seen. That was on her Instagram story. And then the second thing is, go back and check her Instagram. She talked a little bit about how he encountered like a minor injury, so his return to Shanghai was delayed a little bit, but it sounds like it is pretty minor, and he will be back on the court hopefully within the next few weeks here.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Okay, so I just this is my favorite thing, one of my favorite things that BYU does. But there were a lot of Wisconsin fans at the game, and rightly so. I had heard that they traveled well,
they definitely did.
But that was one of the games that I've been to where it was the biggest visiting section that I've seen, for sure.
I don't think it was more fans in Utah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
But anyway, BYU gives free ice cream to the visiting fans. So here's this picture from Brian Horace, and there they are with their creamery ice cream. I just think it's such a cool gesture. So.
It is. And if you missed it, Jody Genesee wrote a good article about the Wisconsin fans' experience coming to Provo.
Yeah, check it out.
They all loved it, apparently. All right.
Let's talk about the number 666.
We should have known it was bad. Apparently, anytime we retire jerseys is just a bad game.
Yeah,
so we need to stop doing that.
It's a sign.
Luckily, there's probably no one to retire for a while. Bonnie Fuller tweeted out, "We scored 6 just to honor Luke Staley."
Sure.
And Mark Wilson and Robbie Wasser.
I saw a few people ask if we did that on purpose, which was like, sometimes you just have to laugh at it. So
I mean, really, if you're going to honor those guys, you're going to score a lot more than that.
Amen.
I hope.
Amen.
Oh, dear.
Speaking of the number 6, so this is from Jess. She had a really great view of these flags that dropped down. I was in the bathroom, so I missed it. I heard everyone cheering really loud, and I was like, what are they cheering for? But I sit on that side of the bleacher, so I wouldn't have seen it anyway. So thank you for tweeting this.
You're welcome. I thought it was neat.
Yeah, so there's Daily, Bosco, and Wilson.
What they're doing with those now. Let's talk about some cute little baby Cougars.
Yes.
Kezzy Tausinga tweeted out, I don't think baby Manoa enjoyed his first football game too much. Maybe he's a wrestler. See this little baby with the little earmuffs, little headphones. I have those for my kids too, and they're screaming his head off. Poor thing. He's probably like, I'm tired. Take me home.
Jess also emailed. She sent us a video of her little cousin. Is it your cousin?
That's my little nephew.
Yeah, who was the same sentiment after the Wisconsin game. We'll have to tweet out that video. But some unhappy babies, and you know what? We feel you guys. We feel you.
I know. They're able to express what we maybe can't.
Let's talk about a happy baby. Our favorite Jonah. So I don't know where this article comes from per se. Do you?
I'm not sure either.
So this was tweeted by Greg Crabb, and he was talking about Jonah. He said Jonah was a brilliant 2-year-old, which we agree. We've talked to Laura about him as a child. But it tells, whatever this article is, tells the story about how Jonah is 2 years old. He walks in while James, his dad, is watching a BYU football game, and he says, Dad, that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. And James said, what, play football? And Jonah says, yes. And that is as a 2-year-old. And Laura Trinament responded to that tweet. She said, pics or it didn't happen. And there is a picture of him in his diaper holding a football. We love it. Jonah probably hates it, but we love it. Though he said that, which was funny, but it was funnier because he said it in
wearing just a diaper and
Sunday shoes.
And his mom was kind enough to actually tweet out a picture of that.
It's amazing. It's
diaper,
amazing.
Sunday shoes, holding a football.
He is so freaking cute.
One thing we wanted to mention is that Butch Pau and Claudia Purcell, I knew that, are getting married on February 9th in New Zealand.
Yeah, he just threw that out in the coaches show casually, and I was like, gotta grab that info. So wedding date, February 9th. And I think she is in New Zealand playing, or she's in Australia or somewhere overseas playing, so it makes sense.
And she's from there, so that's...
Yes. That'll be a pretty wedding.
For a wedding. Oh, I'm sure it will be. It'll be amazing. Let's go on to some alumni. Yeah. Graduated Cougars.
Mini keeping up with the Cougs.
So last night on Monday Night Football, the Giants were playing the Lions. Mm-hmm. And they did, ESPN did a little spotlight on Ziggy's foundation. It's called Ziggy's Pride. It was on Monday Night Countdown. So if you missed that, we'll try to find a clip and tweet out if we can find one.
Yeah, for sure we will.
I haven't seen one yet. And I think there was a podcast as well.
Yep, there was a podcast. And I did see a little bit of that package they did. It was really nice long-form interview with Ziggy to hear from him. And, obviously they were talking about BYU and just all the good he's been able to do in Ghana. So we would definitely recommend checking that out. Right. Speaking of our NFL Cougs, so the Boston Globe tweeted this, and we just really liked these nice pictures. It says Jimmy Garoppolo, Brandon Cooks, and Harvey Longy getting in some warm-up work. Longy will make his NFL debut today, so he didn't dress like we said last time. He did dress today. He looks like an NFL player there. He had one solo tackle. So he
was pretty hyped about it.
Crazy numbers, but yeah, he was stoked.
As he should be.
So yeah, good for him. There you go. Deal. First NFL tackle in the books.
Other cool thing was that Michael Davis was signed to the Chargers roster. Yeah. So this is very cool. That means there are now 5 players from last year's team who are on current active rosters.
So it's not just our captains anymore.
No. So congrats to Michael Davis. Yeah. Hopefully he stays on there for a while and makes some good plays.
Yeah, he saw his first action too, and I think that he got in on one tackle. It wasn't a solo tackle, but he did something. So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's what we've got for our NFL Cougs. We did want to mention last thing in Talk of the Town that Tyler Saxey at TSaxey on Twitter was repping the Y in Hurricane Irma like a crazy person.
Why
but
not?
Still awesome.
Love it. I love all the rain.
You can just see the downpour.
Oh, gosh.
But yeah. Our thoughts are with all of those affected by Irma, Harvey, and now Maria. What is next?
What is next is that we have a bye week. I think collectively Cougar Nation needs to just take a step back, relax, maybe do something else for a day or two.
Just take a break.
Yeah.
Regroup.
Yeah, it really isn't the end of the world. I think it might feel like that because you have played 3 really good ranked teams in a row and not shown very well, but that doesn't mean the season is over. You can definitely still turn it around, and Utah State is a winnable game. So
yeah, I think we're a little more concerned about it than we wish we were, but hopefully it'll be a good game. That is something to look forward to. We will hopefully have a guest on from Logan next week to do an Along the Trail for us. That's a good time to go to a game in Logan. It won't be too terribly cold yet.
That's true.
Potentially. Yeah, we'll see. As for our sponsors this week, our first one, we had to do Jimmer's new signature shoe. That was unveiled yesterday. It's the brand 361, and they are getting a pretty positive reaction on the interweb, so they're pretty cool looking.
They look pretty cool.
Yeah, they do.
Also brought to you by Provo's 2 Bars. Shout out to them for opening early and for handling all of the Wisconsin fans that came in. That was
who chanted, "We want more beer" at the game. So you did good, Bars, but I don't know, apparently not good enough.
I guess not. It's hard to satisfy
we don't know about that.
Wisconsin fans. But.
May you always stay loyal to the white and blue. For Jess, I'm Mary. We will see you next week.